What happened? What did you say?
George is going to be able to say we're going to do $1 offering.
Oh, good, wonderful. Okay. Okay. So what that means is this wonderful Tibetan tradition. I always think of 9.10. What is it? 10-pin bowling or 9-pin bowling? What is it? Look at the thing. What do you do? How many? 10-pin or 9-pin? 10-pin. I always think of 10-pin bowling when I look at this thing, and it's meant to represent the universe. So be creative, that one. So that's a mandala, and a mandala really is the abode of wherever you live, so that's our mandala. And you imagine all the marvelous things in the world, make people happy, the contents of our mandala, if you like, and you imagine just piling it all up and offering as a request for the teachings. It's got a very auspicious meaning. And on top of that, we're going to then offer a statue which represents enlightened body, and a text representing enlightened mind, speech, and then a stupa representing enlightened mind. So kind of creating the course for us individually to achieve enlightened body, speech, and mind. So it has great meaning. So George, with his bass baritone, will offer it. Well, I'll say the prayer. But people got it on the screen or something, or in their books. Have they got it to read? For the people here. Did they got their phones? Did you tell them where the prayers were? They didn't know. They don't know, though. She didn't mention it, so you just have to think in English while he speaks in Tibetan. Imagine all the marvelous things offering, okay? That's the plan. And maybe then Sheila can organize it. You can all download them so you have it ready, yeah, for tomorrow. Okay.
Venerable, a question. Do you prefer the long mandala or the short mandala?
No, short.
Short one? Okay.
Sing in Tibetan. Use your creative imagination. Pile up all the marvelous things and imagine offering as a request. Go.
So, okay. Yeah. Here we go. This is the short mandala offering with requests for teachings. Sajipuki Jukshing Meitong Tramri Rablingji Nidegyem Padi Samge Jingdu Mikte Uwagi Drokunam Dogjinglam Chupashom Jetsun Lamam Dampakenam Kichukukalam Yen se chutsintring Jita shampeng Duljes in malam Javge chuki charpa up to so.
Now mention that Buddha very happily received our offering. Idam Guru
Ratnamandala Kamniriyatayami.
Good. I thought he'd be a bass baritone, but he's not. He's more like a tenor. I was surprised. Just because he's tall and big. I misrepresented you, Joy.
Okay.
Where are we here? Where's this? I want to get the people. I don't want to see me. How can I do it? Show me the people. I can't see where to change it.
Yes.
Gallery. There we go. Okay, good one. Okay, everybody. Okay. So they've got the course notes, right? Have they, Sheila? They know about that? They don't know about it. You never told them. Sheila, please tell. Okay. I prepared them you said send them many days ago, and I did. Yes. But you didn't tell them. It's for them.
So all the course notes and the prayers.
I prepared as a
website. You can all access it from your phone.
And so have your course notes on your phone so you can read them and study them during the weekend. That's the point. That's why you got them. So teachings on all these topics, and there's a PDF formatted for your phone, easy reading on your phone. It's like 250 pages of teachings, okay, on emptiness, on all of these things, on the practice, okay, all there for you. Okay. So if we look at Buddha's view of the world, really the view of karma is absolutely fundamental. I think for many of us in the modern world, we're completely not interested. Many people I know, and that's perfectly fine. We can choose who really like Buddhism, who say they're Buddhists, have no interest in karma. And that's perfectly fine. People can do what they wish. But if you in the Tibetan tradition, where they take the entire kind of world view coming from India, that was studied in the great monastic universities in India, in all the traditions, all the teachings we share with the first stages of practice, the Theravadan teachings, all the teachings we share with the Mahayana, all the teachings we share with the Tantrayana, all the teachings of the Buddha, all the stages of the path, the starting point and the most fundamental and absolute prerequisite, if we want to understand the big picture in Buddhism, is the view of karma. In other words, it doesn't mean you can't practice some parts of Buddhism without it. There's no question. You can learn about the mind in Buddhism without even worrying whether it's a continuity of consciousness coming from life to life or whether it's a brain. Doesn't matter. There's so much we can already practice. But we want the big picture, then we need to present karma, So, of course, the way to present this all the time, and I constantly stress this, because is to take it as our working hypothesis. Buddha's telling us what he's found to be true. And then he's saying, this is what I found to be true. Here's my methodology. And here's what you can achieve. And now it's over to you. But I think what we need continuously to hear that approach, because we're so used to when we hear religious philosophy, we hear it as dogma, and we hear it as coming from on high. We hear it as coming from a creator. We hear it as something you can't possibly prove and you would never dare want to prove, because that implies you can become God, and you can't say that. But it's a completely different approach, We need to hear this again and again, because when we hear Buddhism, we hear it as, something you have to believe. One of the commonest words people use is the word belief. I believe in karma. I believe in reincarnation. I don't believe in karma, But from the Buddha, from the start, he says, don't believe a single word I'm telling you. And that's what we think of as science. This is why I quote this. One time in New Zealand, years ago, some fellow who happened to be a scientist, he said, who revealed these teachings to the Buddha? Which is a perfect question when you know that he's taking the assumption, which is what we all do, that Buddhism is religion, and religion comes from a creator. Therefore, it's revelation, who revealed these teachings. It was and I've always said it, but no one has ever asked me that question before or since. But it's a perfect question. And of course, the answer is a shock to us. So I said to him, would you ask Einstein, who revealed the teachings about relativity to him? And of course, we all laughed. He laughed. Of course, we would. It's ridiculous. We wouldn't do that, because we called him a scientist, a person who used his intelligence, who observed the world, came up with various findings, proved them to himself, codified them as laws, and then presented. And we know perfectly well Einstein would not say, you must believe in this. You must believe in relativity. He did not have a vision of it. It wasn't from revelation. He didn't have a dream. He's not speculating. We understand that when it comes to science, but it's shocking to us to hear it in such simple language that that's the Buddha. The Buddha didn't use those concepts because he doesn't talk like a modern Western scientist, but that's the approach. Because he's not a creator. He even argues with the view of a creator. That's why he diverged in his own direction from the Hindus, who talk about an essential energy called God, an essential energy called a soul. He disagrees with that. He's found that not to be true. He's found that to be a misconception. He's not being argumentative. And the whole point in Buddhism is that every Buddha was a regular guy who became this enlightened being from his own hard work, not by believing in something, but by using his own mind to investigate the reality of the world in order to come up with, and he came up with his own findings, and he presents them. And he, like Einstein, says, here's my methodology, and now it's over to you to practice it, if you want to come to the same conclusions. We're not used. I don't think we use that approach to religious philosophy. We think it's belief. We think, and indeed, if you're a Christian, I was a Catholic, indeed you must have belief. You can't possibly prove that God is right. How could you do that? It means you become God. That's impossible to imagine. You can't say that. So as the Dalai Lama tells us, Westerners, modern people, if you decide to practice Buddhism, like if you practice mathematics, if you practice music, by definition, by necessarily, this is my words now, you go into it and you listen to the theories and then you put them into practice. You go, your teacher will tell you 1 + 1 is 2. You don't believe it. You go and prove it each step of the way. You can't prove E = mc² the first day at school, but you lead towards it. That's the approach. We understand that. That's the approach in Buddhism. That's the approach in Buddhism. So as His Holiness says to us, if you, having practiced step by step, come to a point where you do prove from your direct experience that it is not like that, that is mistaken, then you must reject him. That's a surprise to us. But I think we have to hear this again and again, especially when it comes to something like reincarnation and karma, or the fact that Buddha would suggest that the mind is not physical. Immediately we say, how can you prove that? Immediately we ask that. Well, it's all there. If he's proven it, then he's giving us his way of doing it. And this is where it's so crucial to understand where Buddha came from. These incredible, as Dalai Lama says, these amazing, there were these amazing Indians more than 3,000 years ago. They were the ones who began the investigation into the self. And I would say they were the ones who discovered the mind from the Buddhist perspective, from the Hindu perspective. The mind is, we're not discussing the brain here. As I like to put it, without insulting neuroscientists, the brain is a physical indicator of what's going on in the mind, but only at a certain level, because these Indians, they're the ones who created this amazing, outrageously sophisticated psychological skill that enables you to accomplish this samadhi, this subtle concentration, not in some mysterious part of us, but as a subtle level of our own very mind, our own capacity for cognition. So we have the grosser levels of conceptuality, we have the grosser levels of sensory consciousness. But from the Hindu perspective, and indeed the Buddhist, and Buddha came in that tradition, he came up in that tradition, he was educated. The mind has these far subtler levels of cognition, far subtler, that we do not posit very simply in modern science, in psychology. They don't exist, So we have to factor that in, take it as a hypothesis. Don't just assume it's religious made up stuff, Treat it with respect if you're interested. And the techniques are there. People looking like you and me right now are in the mountains, metaphorically or otherwise, achieving this samadhi. And millions of people over the centuries have achieved it. And the Buddha would suggest we've achieved it in many lifetimes, that we've kind of lost the plot, Didn't continue working with it. So mind in Buddhism is the point. The mind, consciousness, a capacity for cognition. When Lama Zopa Rinpoche and Lama Yeshe started teaching Westerners at Courtin Monastery in Kathmandu in the early 70s, he'd present the path according to the Tibetan tradition back since Tsongkhapa's day in the 14th century, for example, in our lineage. But he'd always start with what the mind is. You have to start with that, because this is a radically different presentation. We can see this, a radically different presentation. Buddha's talking about something that he has found to be not physical. This level of consciousness that the Hindus discovered is beyond the brain. It's not a function of the brain. It's not a function of the senses. It's not a function of conceptuality. And of course, that's mysterious and mystical to us, but this is exactly what they found, And the technique is right there for anyone who wants to go off into the mountains and give up sex, drugs, and rock and roll and work for a few years. You can get this samadhi as well. And then you can prove easily that your mind is not physical, that your consciousness does not come from a mother or father or a creator, that it comes from the continuity of its own, it comes from previous moments of its own continuity, That consciousness for the Buddha is this river of mental moments, not physical, not the handiwork of a creator, not the handiwork of mummy and daddy. This is shocking to us, shocking. From a Christian perspective, it's shocking, and from a materialist perspective, it's shocking. So what Buddha has observed, and these Indians before him presented this. Buddha didn't invent this. He wasn't the first one who came up with this. The way the Buddhism describes the contents of the mind, which we're going to talk about, this came from the Hindus already, their own discovery, from having this technique that now allows them to plumb the depths of their own mind, They discovered the mind internally, not through the brain. This is the point. So the mind, as far as Buddha is concerned, is not physical. It's not a function of the brain. Doesn't mean it doesn't depend upon the brain at a certain level, the grosser level, absolutely. Doesn't come from anyone else. So the more you think about and study and apply Buddhist teachings, the more absurd the idea is that your mind can be given to you by somebody. This is really quite demented for the Buddha. Quite bizarre, actually. Which, of course, is the absolute assumption of all modern psychology, absolute assumption of neuroscience. So it's quite shocking for us to hear this. And if we're interested in Buddhism, we've got to kind of hear it superficially. We've got to dig deep and put these together without contradiction, you know. So mind is not physical, not the handiwork of mummy, daddy, or, shockingly, a creator. No concept like that in Buddhism. Don't need creating, Buddha says. His Holiness Dalai Lama says this law of karma is like self-creation. So as a concept, it's pretty simple. That basically every millisecond of what we think and do and say, the we here is called a sem chen in Tibetan, a mind possessor. We translate it as sentient being. The word is, I think, is more delicious. The translation is mind possessor. Well, for the Buddha, there are countless mind possessors, not just humans, ants and dogs and or other types of beings that we can't see, that aren't in our realm of existence, are mind possessors. Countless numbers of mind possessors, the Buddha says. And this consciousness of theirs, you know, if you think it, if it comes from, so one simple way of, okay, the first very first point that Lama Zopa would always teach to Westerners, all the hippies in the 70s when they first came to Nepal, for some reason looking simultaneously for enlightenment and drugs. Why we assume they came together, I never understand, you know. I think it's because Tibetan men look like hippies. They had long hair and earrings, you know, so we all assumed they were hippies. But Tibetans are very conservative people, you know, not like hippies at all. So so the mind is beginningless. And this is what just conceptually, this is the most demented idea for us. We have this deep, instinctive, absolute view of truth that there's a first moment. But there must be a first moment. Where's the first moment of my suffering? When did my suffering begin? When did I begin? When did the world begin, you know? When did it begin? Remember His Holiness in all his discussions with scientists, he said, Big Bang? No problem. Just not the first Big Bang, that's all. Which is a great way of putting it. But we all desperately want a first moment. I think it's really true. And look at the Catholics. I was a Catholic, you know. The Catholics have very extensive teachings on attempting to prove that there can be a first cause. There can be a first cause. And of course, that's God. They prove, you know. From the Buddhist perspective, Buddha says it's immediately a contradiction in terms. If everything is the product of cause and effect, and I think with a fairly simple way of looking at the world, scientific, it's evident. Anything you point to at this second is the product of a series of previous causes. We know that. So clearly, if you posit the law of cause and effect, by definition, you can't have a first cause, by definition. Because what caused that? That's why if you're a little smarty pants at school, please, you know, the nuns at school, who created God? I mean, you can't ask that question, you know. But I'm just talking, not trying to be rude. So the Buddha says it's not possible. And even the physical world, if everything that exists from the Buddhist perspective in the ordinary world, things and minds, matter and minds, there's really only these two for the Buddha, matter and minds. And matter, still they use the view of the four elements. We have millions of elements now, don't we, in modern science? But we used to think of that one back before, and the Indians still do. I mean, in this tradition, Buddhism, the four things, matter is made of the four elements. Then you can't find a first moment. You go back to the Big Bang, and as he says, the Dalai Lama, not the first one, because as long as something has existed before, it has to have existed before. It's kind of intellectually not complicated, but kind of blows our heads to think it, you know. And the Buddha would suggest is because one of the deep misconceptions in our mind is that somehow things have a permanent nature and uncaused. And this is even one of the arguments that Buddha, you know, just in his understanding of reality, ultimate reality, that there can't be such a thing, you know. Things are dynamic, changing moment by moment, impermanent, cause and effect, produced. So from this perspective, if our mind goes, you know, if we can think of our mind, if you think of yourself now, you're made of your body and you're made of your mind. consciousness, mind, these two entities inextricably linked pretty clearly. So if you track back yesterday, day before, and you see yourself shrinking as you go back towards your childhood and eventually towards the baby, and then the moment you come out of your mother's womb and keep tracking in the womb, then you're going to get back to the first second of conception. And then the question is, well, we know the egg came from mummy and the sperm came from daddy, or these days, whoever the people are in the Petri dish, something else maybe. But they have a cause. The body has a cause, and before this person. But the conscious, what about that? That comes from a previous moment of itself. This mental continuum, as they say in Buddhist psychology, this river of mental moments, this chain of unbroken, this link, unbroken links. Each moment necessarily can only go back to a millisecond before that. There's no space in between. And that moment is a product of the previous moment. And that moment is a product of the previous moment. And it's a good thing just to think through, So here we're taking this as our view here, our hypothesis, that our consciousness, and this is the key thing when we start to look at karma, the crucial point, that if we're not the handiwork of mummy and daddy or a creator, then whatever's in our mind has come from, we put it there. We come fully programmed, as far as Buddha is concerned, in his analysis of karma. We came fully programmed into our own mother's womb at the time of conception, fully programmed. With Buddha uses the analogy of seeds and fruits, with seeds that we planted in our mind from previous actions of body, speech, and mind. So the general idea of karma, this law of karma, is that every millisecond of what we think and do and say, every millisecond, without exception, of what we think and do and say is the very process that produces the person we become, moment by moment, and in the future, We are, as His Holiness says, it's like self-creation. It's the simplest way to put it. So this is very shocking, because instinctively we have a view that we're some kind of innocent victim who didn't ask to get born, and therefore it's not our fault. I mean, that's the energy of ego. We know this, So basically Buddha says we are the creators of ourselves. And this is where we have to understand this. So this law of karma that he has observed, but the Hindus before him already presented it. They had observed it in their own mind, with their own mind at a subtle level, remember? This natural law. It's a natural law. And that's the thing to remember if we're trying to be Buddhist. There's no equivalent. Well, there is an equivalent of Buddha's law, but there's within Buddhism, what we call, within Christianity, for example, what we call God's law. This is a major point, isn't it? God is the creator. God is the source of the universe. God is the source of me. God, therefore, is the source of the rules. That's why I always, again, quote this every time, but it's hugely important to understand it if we want to understand Buddhism. That when, you at the very beginning of Buddhist practice, you're going to hear Buddha's got his little list of 10 don'ts. Don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, don't jump on the wrong partner. Well, Jesus has the same. We can see they're like a similar list, 10 of them. So when you ask Jesus, why, when someone says don't do this, you ought to ask the question, why not? They should have a logical reason, right? So Jesus will very clearly tell you, and then my Catholic priest friend told this to me, that by definition, what is right and wrong is what God says to do or not do, because he's the boss. Which is reasonable. It's completely reasonable if you have the view of creator. So what defines something as wrong, like killing, because it's God's law. God said don't kill. So because it's God's law, what makes it wrong is because God said. And I'm not criticizing this. This is powerful, because it's God's law. So what defines something as a good action is because God said to do it. And what defines something as bad or a sin is what God said not to do. This is tremendously powerful. But that's the view we have of religious philosophy. So as soon as we hear the Buddha says don't kill, we hear it as someone forcing us, sitting on top of our head saying don't kill, and if you do, I'll punish you. That's how we think of it. Well, for the Buddha, that's like going to your doctor and she says don't smoke. And you say, why not? And she says, because I say so, and if you do, I will give you cancer. It's absurd. For the Buddha, this is natural law. It's natural law Killing is they call it a natural negativity. And natural law, you ask Buddha what makes killing wrong. He says, well, honey, have you noticed that people don't like getting killed? It's a natural law. This is hugely important to remember. So then you've got to ask the question, well, why is he telling us? Why is he suggesting we don't do it? Well, he's a good doctor. And this is the point that we miss in the West completely. So he's stating what a negative and positive. So we're going to get into this more. Okay. So what Buddha's saying is that this is a natural law. So virtue and non-virtue are natural laws. Virtue and non-virtue. He talks very clearly when we look into the mind, and the Buddhist psychological model basically divides all of the thousands of thoughts and feelings and emotions within our mind into three categories. Those that are negative, neurotic, I-based, fear-based, and necessarily the source of my pain and the source of why I harm others. And then there are the virtuous states of mind, that are the source of my happiness and the source of how I can benefit others. These are natural laws. This is very shocking. It's marvelous to hear it. They're not because somebody said. It's not coming from on high. Just like, your mathematics teacher doesn't say to you, you must believe that 1 + 1 is 2 because I tell you. That's what we mean by God's law, and I'm not criticizing it. We know Mr. What's his name? Galileo, when he diverged, apparently got burned at the stake for it, beginning to discover what's called natural law. We call it science. That's how Buddha talks. And he's either right or he's wrong. 1 + 1 is 2 is either right or it's wrong. And we don't find that shocking in science. But as soon as it comes to religion, we have a panic attack hearing that, So for the Buddha, he's discovered that the mind is not physical, goes to very subtle levels, doesn't come from your mummy or daddy, doesn't come from a creator, doesn't come from nothing, is a beginningless continuity of mental moments, and that whatever goes on in it, second by second by second, is the process that determines who you become. Or, if you like, is the process that produces your happiness or your suffering. One way you can describe the entirety of Buddhism in terms of how to stop suffering and how to get happy, his very first teaching, the Four Noble Truths. He's presented what he calls suffering. He's presented what he calls happiness, which it's a flip over. You flip that over, freedom from suffering equals happiness. He's found the causes. He's presenting what he says is the causes of it. First, he presents suffering. There are causes. You can achieve the cessation of suffering and its causes. And then the fourth one, the methodology, the Four Noble Truths. That's his presentation, And it's what he's found to be true, what he's observed directly with his own mind. And keep remembering, we say that mind, we're not talking the brain, we're not talking the grosser level of sensory, and we're not talking the grosser level of conceptuality, which is the only levels of mind that we have some solid knowledge about in the modern world, There are these subtle levels of mind, infinitely more powerful. It's not meant to be a mystical thing. As Amayeshi says in his book on Mahamudra meditation, when you've accomplished this single-pointed concentration, this samadhi, this ability, when you've accessed these subtler levels of your mind, that, like I say, we don't even posit as existing in modern psychology or neuroscience. He says when you've accessed that, not some mystical hippy-trippy cross your fingers thing, but clear, powerful, rigorous, technology, when you've accomplished that level of mind. It's as if your mind, he says, it's as if your mind is as vast as the ocean, as if you can count every atom in the universe. They say it's inconceivable to even try and conceptualize how astonishing our mind is at that subtle level. And it's not mysterious. You don't just cross your fingers and go there. You have to practice to get there because it's your mind, And these Hindus discovered this technique. They discovered the mind. You could say that. Definitely, I'd say that. So our consciousness, our mind, these words are used synonymously, are not physical. They're not the product of someone else. And whatever we think and do and say in this mind, whatever we do and think and say, whatever we think in this mind, and therefore what we do and say on the basis of that with our body and speech, that's the process of, quote unquote, creating karma. And it's a natural law. It's a natural law. It's a natural law. We instantly hear it as punishment and reward, and that is appropriate if we're Christians. It's appropriate if we're Muslims. It's appropriate. That's the view. Not here. Buddha is not the boss. It's like a joke. He's not the boss. He's this clever person who's observed this natural law and has found what he says is the sources of suffering, and he's giving us a method of how to get rid of it. It's what he's done himself. So he says, this is my methodology. This is what I've achieved. Over to you, you know. That's the approach. But it takes us time because instinctively we have this victim mentality. We have this view of punishment and reward. We hear instructions on good ethics as like punishment and reward. We can't help it, you know. But Buddha's not meaning it like that in any way possible. Ethics is goodness is a natural law. Ethics is a natural law. He didn't make it up. It's not his law that he owns copyright to, you know. This is the approach. So the purpose of all this then is because he says he's found what suffering is. He's found the causes of it. He's identified the causes, and he says that we can get rid of suffering and its causes. That's his very first teaching, and he says that's what he's achieved himself. So he presents his findings, you know. And of course, one has to take it as a hypothesis first. Of course, you do. When you first hear 1 + 1 is 2, you have to take it as your hypothesis. You can't say, "Oh, come on, how do you know?" to your teacher. You won't get far. You understand? You take it as your hypothesis and you go home and prove it. That's exactly the Buddha's approach. It's exactly the Buddha's approach, but it's one step at a time. One step at a time. And I think the important point, certainly in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition and the monastic tradition, this is strong. This is the key point, and this is my way of putting it. That I think if any body of knowledge, not just a bunch of hippie trippy views that we all make up, because we think if it's religion, we're going to make up our own, because we don't think it's real, you know. I can make up what I think. I can make up what I believe, we say. I mean, it's beyond shocking to think that way, you know. But if any body of knowledge, whether it's mathematics, acupuncture, or Buddhism, this is the point, if it's valid, if it's a valid body of knowledge, then first, it has to be coherent theoretically. That is a truth, I think. First, it has to be coherent theoretically. Otherwise, it's just made up stuff, you know. Oh, it's beyond words, we'll say. It's just rubbish. The taste of delicious cake is beyond words, yep, but the theory can be explained. Listen to Bach. Listen to the amazing music, the astonishing music coming out of the minds of those geniuses. You can reverse engineer it, can't you? End up with a piece of paper with little dots on it. There's the theory. Perfect. Totally perfect. Logical, coherent. Mathematics, same. Acupuncture, same. Same. Buddhism, same. So, of course, we live at a conceptual level. So here we're talking theories, aren't we? And this is where we get very confused when we talk about meditation and experience. I don't want theory, I want experience. Well, it's like saying, I don't want to hear musical theory, I just want to have the experience of playing Bach. Well, I'm sorry, you can't have it. Theory's got to come first, because that's where we live at the level of conceptuality, don't we? And then for Bach to sit there saying, oh, it's beyond words, I can't explain. How mean of him. He can teach you to become your own Bach, can't he? That's marvelous. That's exactly what Buddhism is saying. So consciousness is not physical. It's driven by this natural law. Or if you like, we live within this natural law. No one put it there. No one owns copyright to it. No one runs it. It's like botany. It's not as if gardens go to sleep when the botanist goes to sleep. Then you've got to turn a switch on for the gardens to work again. Botany has always existed. As long as there's been earth and air and moisture and seeds, you've got botany. But maybe one day some clever person identified it and codified it. That's what natural law means. Einstein didn't make up E = mc². He identified the fact that E = mc². Nobody made up that 1 + 1 is 2. Nobody made up that a rose seed brings a rose. They observed and identified it and put it down in writing. How kind, you know. Buddha doesn't own this stuff. He's got no copyright on it. He's observed it and he's presenting it. That's the approach. That's the approach. Any questions so far? No? Any thoughts? Questions? Yes. Is this microphone? Oh, it is on. Yeah, go.
You go to enough Tibetan teachings, you end up being taught about cause and effect, and then you'll get to eventually get to Buddha nature or something
that's right.
Or,
well, I know, but
so
okay.
How
All
do you
right.
reconcile that?
Well, okay. Okay. Now you said the question already. Did you all hear it online? Did you hear it online?
Repeat it again.
Repeat. Yeah, go.
Okay. So if you go
So
to
put it
enough,
to a question. Make it a question.
okay. How do you reconcile Buddha nature or ideas like that where it's not caused or it's not created?
Okay, so I mean, so I have now. You ask, I have to answer. Basically, and it's not even relevant right now because this is not. It doesn't even come in the beginning of what I'm discussing. But basically, Buddha has another. It says everything that we see and think and hear in the mind itself are all impermanent phenomena. They change moment by moment, and they've got causes. And there are some phenomena that are more. Alex Berzin says abstract. And so, when we get to emptiness, that's when that becomes very, very relevant. And this sounds abstract to us, but even speaking very simply, something like a mind. Okay, forget that. So as I say, I'm looking at my cup here and I see there's no tea. Well, the Buddhist approach would be that what you've just observed is a thing called the absence of tea. That the concept of absence of something, like it's a quaint way to put it, but that's something you can't taste or see or smell or touch, isn't it? That's the absence of something. You mightn't speak. You don't walk into the room, oh, there's an absence of people in here. It's a quaint way of putting there's nobody there. Do you understand? But that's a very vivid thing in Buddhism. And so these types of phenomena are abstract and therefore not according to the law of cause and effect. They're different, but they're still existent. They're still existent phenomena. That's all. They do exist, but there's another level. Berzin says they're abstract. As we know, Buddhism would say they're not caused in the sense of not being impermanent. But that's enough for now. Will that do? So Buddha nature, okay, it's helpful to talk about that now. So the concept of Buddha nature just means the emptiness of your mind. That's all it's referring to. The absence of inherent nature of your mind. And the absence of inherent nature of your mind, or quote unquote Buddha nature, is a phenomenon that is, because it's the absence of something, it's not the product of impermanence. It's not within the law of impermanence, it is merely just abstract right now in this discussion. It doesn't touch our lives, right? Isn't it? Will that do as an answer? Okay, good. Anybody else? Somebody else? Well, let's talk about Buddha nature. It's a good point. So I loved looking at the word Buddha or the word Sangye, the Tibetan equivalent of the Sanskrit Buddha. This is very delicious, actually. The first syllable, sang, implies the total eradication from our mind of all neuroses, all the first category of the rubbish, all these categories of states of mind. I mentioned the first two, the negative, neurotic, ridiculous ones, and the valid, virtuous ones, the first two categories. This first lot, what Buddha has, this is the essence of the entirety of Buddha's philosophy. What he's discovered is, in his own mind, using these brilliant techniques called samadhi and doing his own work, he's gone into the depths of his own mind in his discovery of the causes of suffering within the mind, because he says the main cause of suffering was in the mind, that the causes of suffering within our mind are these neurotic states of mind. And that he's observed that there are afflictions, delusions, all these words, But their key characteristic is that they're misconceptions. They're basically not valid states of mind because they're misconceptions. We're going to go into this. So what he's found is that because they're misconceptions, they can be removed from the mind. So what he's found is, and this word sang implies that, the total eradication from our minds of these neuroses, of ego and all the nonsense and attachment and anger and jealousy and fears. They are adventitious, according to Buddhist psychology, and thus can be removed from the mind. Sang implies that. And the second syllable, gye, implies the development to perfection of all the virtues and all the goodness, because they are at the core of our being. This first one, they are not at the core of our being, Buddha says. Now, this is shocking from the neuroscientific or psychological point of view. You go to your neuroscientist and you please give me methods to get rid of all anger, all pride, all jealousy, all fears forever. I mean, they'll think you're mentally ill. They'll say, we tried that in the 1930s when we did lobotomies. Doesn't work. So this is really a bizarre idea. And certainly in psychology, it's a bizarre concept. You'd be a half a person if you didn't have anger and jealousy and compassion and love and anger, the neurotic ones. Because we factor those in, I think, in modern psychology and certainly in neuroscience as normal parts of a normal person. So normal, you'd be abnormal if you didn't have them. This is very shocking. This is Buddha's finding. That's what nirvana means. When you've cut the neuroses by realizing emptiness, when you finally cut from your mind the neuroses, the misconceptions, permanently cut them forever, and then you perfected that, that's what nirvana is, the cessation of suffering and its causes. That's exactly his point. That's the entire point of Buddhism. Everything. So then the gay is, if you're on the Mahayana path, you perfect the goodness. So you've got rid of all the rubbish and full of all the goodness. So if that's the meaning, the etymology of Sangye, it tells you immediately. It implies the methodology right there. Know your mind. Know your mind, because that's where the source of all happiness and suffering is. That's the source. The mind is the boss. The mind creates the universe. Buddha means that literally, But before we go there, we look at the Tibetan packaging of all the teachings. In our Gelug tradition, we refer to it as the Lam Rim, stages of the path, but each of the traditions has their own presentation. This is the middle. This is like high school. I call it high school, what they call the middle scope of teachings. High school. Become your own therapist. Learn meditation. Go deep into your mind. Unpack and unravel, and eventually lessen and eventually rid the mind utterly of the neuroses and on the bodhisattva path to perfect the virtues. But before you do this, you've got to go to junior school, and that's where karma comes in. This is the first level of practice in Buddhism. What that means is the very first level, and this is Buddha's instructions in his little list of 10, the first 7, he says refrain from killing. It was his suggestion. It's a summary of his suggestion for how to live your life. Don't to refrain from using your body to harm others, and then to refrain. There's 3 of those. There's 4 of speech. Don't use your speech. Stop using your speech to harm others. First 3 is stop killing and stealing and jumping on the wrong partner, and then the speech, 4 of them. Don't lie, badmouth people, abuse them. Bad mouth behind backs, create disharmony, and don't just rabbit on about nothing. 4 simple things. As why would he suggest we don't do these things? So these are what he calls negative actions, natural negativities, because they harm sentient beings. Not because he says so. He identifies them as actions, as things that harm sentient beings. That's what defines them. Now, but the crucial point here, and that's the piece we miss in the West, which I mentioned before, but I haven't said it properly, is but why he identifies those actions as actions that harm others, natural negativities in their nature, negative actions. But why he exhorts us not to do them is not yet because they harm others. It's because, Buddha says, you know what, honey, they will harm you. And this is the essence of where we learn about karma. And I swear to you, in the West, we can't hear this. We just think, you mean I should stop killing because it harms me? Oh, that's selfish, we'll say, This is the entirety of the first stages of practice. This is how of Buddha's teachings. This is the teachings we share with the Hinayana path. This is the teachings we share with the Theravadan path in Burma and Thailand. This is the first level of Buddha's teachings. He's giving us the methods in his 4 Noble Truths. There is suffering. So here are the causes. So suffering is okay, now back to the 4 Noble Truths. The very first one, there is suffering, he says. He's identified. The first kind of suffering, just the first, is the suffering of suffering. And that's when the bad things happen. So we look into our lives now, we can see we have bad things happen. People harm us, lie to us, steal from us, maybe kill us. We're hungry, we get sick, all the bad things that happen. Well, the Buddha, these are what we call the suffering of suffering. Speaking simply, these are the suffering of suffering. And we all recognize these as suffering, but that's all we call suffering. But right at this stage, that's the first kind of suffering. And he says, Buddha's telling us he's identified causes of it. So yes, your boyfriend punches you in the nose. Buddha says, well, you know, Robina Courtin, I'm sorry, but your consciousness and that consciousness of this boyfriend, 32 lives ago, you had some kind of trip together, got some history with each other. You created the cause to meet again. You bump into each other, and before you know it, he punches you in the nose. So the cause for the Buddha, this first level, the cause of my present suffering is my past actions. Actions of body and speech. First cause, in the second noble truth, there are two causes of suffering. The first one is called karma. So if I get punched in the nose, speaking simplistically, it's the fruit of one of my actions in the past. The logic being it couldn't happen to me if I hadn't caused it. It's not possible. This is the thing that's shocking again to us. It's not possible to have something happen to me, good or bad, if I hadn't caused it. Because the main cause of what happens to me is one way karma ripens, is that an action that I did in the past, and it's personal. So the first kind of suffering is the suffering of suffering when bad things happen. And there's a cause of it. Yes, the boyfriend, he's a secondary cause. He's merely a catalyst. He's not the main cause. And that's the shock for us. He's not the main cause. From the Buddha's point of view, there's a seed in my mind that I planted from having done an action like that, that's programmed my mind. I haven't pulled it out, and I meet the fellow, and before you know it, the punch comes back, you know, speaking simply. But happiness works like that as well. Happiness works like that as well. So there is suffering, the first kind of suffering. And Buddha has identified from looking to his own mind and having clairvoyance, which is what you get easily when you get single point of concentration, because you've accessed a subtle level of your mind. You see the past. That's what he's done. And seen there are causes in the mind, actions in the past, that sow seeds in the mind. You haven't pulled them out, and eventually you meet the conditions and it will ripen. Happiness the same. So every millisecond, the Buddha says, what we label suffering, this first kind of suffering, the grossest one, the suffering of suffering, when the bad things happen, the first kind of suffering, there are causes. And the first cause is my past action. The second cause is the neurotic state of mind, the delusion, the affliction that drove me to do that action in the past. So two main causes of suffering, second noble truth, karma and delusions. Main causes. There are millions of secondary causes. My boyfriend's punch definitely is one of the causes of my suffering. But that for the Buddha is a bit like the catalyst. It's like the water that you pour on the rose seed, and the warmth in the air that then affects the rose seed. The main cause of the rose tree, the rose flower, is the seed, but it's triggered by the addition of warmth and water, warmth and moisture. They're the secondary causes. So the boyfriend's punch, my mother's kindness, they're the secondary causes. The catalysts, they're the main causes of my happiness from my mother is my past virtue in relation to her. The main cause of my suffering in relation to my boyfriend is my past action to him. Karma's personal. And if it's a natural law, keep hearing those words. It's shocking to hear. If it's a natural law, it's got to be coherent and consistent every time. And therefore, there can't be, like in any garden, you might know nothing about botany, but you know it's a natural law. Someone's told you. So whatever grows can be tracked. It's not just random. It's not occasionally Buddha, botany kicks in. The rest of it's just random. So with karma, there can't be anything that is random. It's not possible. Not possible if it's a natural law. If it's a natural law, which is what Buddha's suggesting. This is a shocking idea to us. Every millisecond of what I experience. So there's 4 ways our karma ripens. 4 ways. And this encompasses our entire life. The first result of my past actions is the cause of getting a human mother in the first place. All these karmic seeds that produce our life in these 4 ways, the type of body you get, the type of realm you're born into, like human in this case. Second, the mind within this body. Third, the experiences I experience at the hands of others. And 4, even the physical world, the way it impacts upon me. These 4 are the 4 ways my past actions are now playing out in this life. Seeds were planted probably 2,000 lives ago, could have been, I came fully programmed with these countless thousands of seeds. From the second I came out of my mother's womb, they're playing out. So these are all triggered, and it's all detailed very deeply in the Tibetan teachings and in the Vajrayana teachings. At the time of my past death, we'll discuss this. A few weeks before my mind found its way to my mother's present human womb, when she jumped into bed with Daddy, Egg and sperm came together. My mind went there. But a few weeks before that, it was in a previous body. Not more than a few weeks before that conception. And before I even stopped breathing, some of these particular karmic seed, and remember that anything we ever think and do and say, none of it goes astray. Everything we think and do and say since beginningless time is stored in our mind. Stored in our mind. So at the time of my past death, before I stopped breathing, a particular karmic seed of a very strong virtue, particularly non-killing, was triggered. That second, the same time, the next set of karmic seeds that will produce the personality of Robina. They do not come from a mother and father. They might share traits. We can see that in families, but they don't give them to me. That's a weird idea. They would have all been triggered at the same time as that seed that would determine I'd go to that mother's womb. Third, the karmic seeds called experiences similar to the cause, which in this life are the experiences I have at the hands of others, my mummy, my daddy, the rats and cockroaches, the sister, next door neighbor. You know, since my time of conception up to now, we're very social beings, aren't we? I experience things at the hands of others. Every one of these, the main cause is my past actions. This is an outrageous concept. You know, to think it through. The fourth way, this is before we even dying in the past life. All this has already happened. As before you stop breathing, all these karmic seeds kick in. You're already programmed, ready for this next life. The fourth way is called environmental karma. The very way the physical world impacts upon us, you know. So four results of one type of action, let's say non-killing. One of the most powerful virtuous actions we can do is intentionally refrain from killing. I remember one Tibetan Lama was asked, if you want to tell a person one thing, what would you say? He said, don't kill. So the first way that non-killing would ripen is as a human body, as opposed to a dog or an ant or something. The second way non-killing would ripen within this human life, if we have these karmas, and it's rare on this planet to have these four together, look at the world, would be wake up in this life with no thought to kill. Look at the world, you know. Most humans, due to their past virtue of non-killing, there's 4 tracks of karma, right? The first one, they got a human body like a miracle due to non-killing karma, but look at their minds. Most humans kill something. Most religions say it's okay to kill. Most people have a tendency to kill. We take it for granted, you know. So it's rare to find a person on this planet who, since they're tiny, has never thought to kill, doesn't even rise in their mind. That's the fruit of non-killing. As an intention, as a tendency. The third way that non-killing would ripen is an experience. You don't get killed and you don't die young. Well, so far, that's us, so far. But look at the world. Sick people die, happy people die, young people die, babies die, fetuses die. I always use the example of my abortion, you know. When I was 23 and I was a hippie, I always sometimes go too far. People get embarrassed, I think, when I talk the story, but I love it as an example of karma, you know. This person, I always think of it as a girl. She came into my womb at the time I was in this boy. I was a nice hippie. I was 23 in London, 1968. This boy, Australian boy, I remember he's an Australian boy. He was an architect. He got £1 an hour. I was very impressed. I got 13 pounds a week. He got £1 an hour. I remember this. Sorry, ridiculous idea. Ridiculous detail. Anyway, I was a nice boy. And then suddenly I was with him, and I said to myself that second, oh my God, I didn't say God. I said, I knew that second I was pregnant. I said, I'm pregnant. That second. Many women tell you that. And the next thought was, I'll have an abortion. So that's the way karma ripens. This person had the karma a few weeks ago when they died. As karmic seed of non-killing in that particular track was triggered, and it was personal. They programmed themselves. They were programmed to come to my womb. It wasn't random. Can't be. Then second way karma ripens, they don't know that. Poor thing didn't get enough time to live because I killed them. I had them aborted. But the third one, experience similar to the cause of what? Of killing. They found their way to my womb, which is a fruit of non-killing. But then the second I knew they were in my womb, at the first second of conception, That's when the consciousness goes to the egg and sperm. That second, I knew. And then the thought was, I'll have an abortion. So that's my intention to kill, but they were the huge cause of that was their having killed me. It's so interdependent. Karma implies this incredible connectedness with each other, incredible interdependence. There cannot be a meeting with a person you've not met before. They cannot possibly smile at you if there's no virtue in your mind to be smiled at. It's not possible. This is really proving emptiness, you know. It's incredible. But we feel the world as this random thing with random events, isn't it? Things that are a shock, things like a good luck and bad luck. We think our life is full of good luck and bad luck. That's just complete ignorance for the Buddha. Every tiny thing that happens to each person, the main cause of it is from that person. It's a very powerful concept. So this person's in my womb, right? And the second I knew I'd have, and so that also happened to be that year. I felt very fortunate because 1968, and the English had just approved abortions on the national health, you know, free. I felt so lucky. And it worked really smoothly. No hindrances. I got to the hospital. The doctor believed me. They put me in and they cut the little person out, you know. So that's due to the extensity of their killing karma that there were no hindrances, you know. If there were no karma, I might have had the thought to have an abortion, but if there were no karma of that person in my womb to be killed, no matter what I did, I wouldn't be able to abort them. So things are so interdependent. If you haven't created generosity in the past, there's no way in the planet a person will give you even $1. And if you haven't stolen in the past, and there's no stealing karma in your mind, there's no way a person will steal from you. Not possible. So Buddha, what he's doing is he puts us in the center of responsibility for who we are. Literally, we create ourselves. I mean, literally, we create ourselves. This is so radically different from the Christian teaching. I'm not criticizing. And so radically different from the materialist one, you know. It's very powerful. And this is the starting point. This is first step. This is first step. Control your body and speech. So the logic of the first karma of Buddha suggesting don't kill, the reason for it is because, you know, Robina, why? Because you don't want to be killed in the future. And I have to know that. So that's why first, at my first level of practice, I must not want to kill because I can't bear the thought of future suffering. That's what we think in the West as being selfish. Nobody calls you selfish if you decide you don't want to eat sugar because you don't want diabetes. No one says you're being selfish. They think you're intelligent. But when it comes to this stuff, we don't hear it properly, you know. This is called renunciation. This first stage of practice, this first level of practice, the first level of realization is called renunciation of suffering and its causes. You've got to be revolted by the thought of future suffering. You've got to be horrified at the thought of your own future suffering and want to give it up. That's the first level of practice. That's a prerequisite for compassion for others. That's like compassion for yourself, basically. So the third way that non-killing would ripen, or the first way is you get a human body. Second way is you'd have no tendency to kill. Third way, you won't get killed or die young. And fourth, you'll be fat and healthy no matter what you eat. And the food will be delicious, the air will be delicious, and even if it's not, you won't get sick, you know. So whatever occurs to us whatever arises in our life, in our mind, is due to our past actions. Whatever arises in front of me and how I'm seen and treated, due to my past actions. However, the world, the physical world, even impacts upon me due to my past actions. We are the boss. We are the creator. This is the basis of Buddhist practice. So maybe you can go to sleep on that then. Is it sleep time? It's very early, isn't it? What time is it? Only 8:30. Well, now you've got to have questions. Come on. Questions. Yes. Sweetheart.
A little bit more about abortion, please.
Oh, what do you mean by that? We'll go into it in more detail, but to ask the question now.
What?
Sure. We'll go into it in more detail, but killing.
Yes, killing. So okay, the abortion is killing.
Well, it's a human being in there, right? Yes, isn't
yes.
It? Okay.
And so that's killing.
I'd suggest, wouldn't it?
And what effect? What karmic effect?
We're going to go into all the results. We'll do all that.
And
we'll
then does there have to be kind of a lifetime purification going on?
We're going to be discussing all of it. This is the point of the course. We're heading to it. Can you wait till tomorrow?
I guess so.
Thank you. Good. Just give
Robina, can I ask a question?
Who's asking a question?
it's Eileen. May I ask? I just want to, if each person has their own individual karmic trajectory, but we're also deeply connected. So some kid loses their mother at 5, another person loses their child. What does that mean then for?
What do you mean, Eileen? What do you mean by mean? That's
Well-
like saying, well, a rose grew in my garden yesterday morning and a tulip grew in your garden. What does it mean? What do you mean? What does it mean? There's nothing meaning. It's the fruit of an action, the fruit of a seed you planted. That's it. What do you mean by mean? What do you mean by?
So you mean it's something that's been, in relation to another person?
What, darling? What, sweetheart?
There was a woman in Tibet House that described to you that she had lost her child, and you gave her a whole view about Buddhist philosophy. But my question is, then her karma is to experience that death.
So what's the question then?
So the question is does it mean that all of us are catalysts for each other?
It's what, darling?
That we're all catalysts for each other.
But that part confuses me now. What do you mean by that? So first of all, if we can take it as a simple example of why there's a rose in your garden, because you put a seed there. You never, so then the seed ripens. So that's due to your past action, you get a rose. So then now due to your past action, someone gives you $5. Due to your past action, someone says you're lovely. Due to your past action, someone says you're a creep and punches you in the nose. So what's the question? What's the question?
Well, the question I have is in relation to relationships, when a person dies or you have to experience something that the other person
so there's different kinds of karma. The first track of karma within this life is called your mental tendencies. That's one thing. Right? You agree? So we look into our mind. I've got a tendency to be kind or loving or be good at piano. They're your tendencies that you brought with you. That's the first one. Now, we are very social beings, aren't we, Eileen? We bump into beings since we're conceived. We are social in our nature. So we bump into people. So from the first second of my conception, I've already got a relationship with that mother. I come out of the womb and she either loves me or doesn't, or she kicks me in the teeth or she looks after me. So what's the question? What's the question?
I see. So that's everything is our karma, even in relation to the other person.
Well, how could it not be?
Yeah.
In a way. Do you see what I'm saying? This is a natural law, a natural law. Every second of what you see growing in your garden, it's come from a seed you either put there or you didn't pull out. If it was a weed, So and then every single thing that happens. So you think of yourself. Everything that I think is due to my past habit. Everything I experience is due to what I must have done before. And karma is intensely personal. If it's a natural law, if karma is a natural law, it's not, whatever happens can't be random. That's the point to think. So whoever appears in front of us, it appears random to us because we're not clairvoyant. So some person comes down the street and smiles at you, and so it's like good luck. Someone comes and takes your $20. We think, oh, that's bad luck. So of course, whatever happens to us, which is in this life, the second way that our karma ripens, called experiences similar to the cause, in relation to others mostly. So whatever it is, being stolen from is not nice. I must have stolen in the past. Or being given money is nice. I must have been generous in the past. You learn from it. You learn from it. Do you understand me?
I do. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, sweetheart.
Eileen's question made me think of experiencing, for instance, if I lost a friend, or I have lost a friend, like someone died, but they're not my child, they're not my parent.
Sure.
We don't have more of an intimate relationship other than friend. And so I'm now experiencing the loss of my friend, my karma to have friends.
So okay, if you look at each thing that happens to us, so there's different things. Keep the microphone. So there's two people going on. There's two things. So one is that person's experiences and what the seeds in their mind and what they're experiencing and how they're seeing the world and what happens to them. And then there's you. So then if someone steals from you, you can look back to yourself. Oh, there's a cause of that. Your beloved friend dies. Well, from your side, the experience you have is not their death, but your experience of that is yours, isn't it? You didn't cause their death, so you just suffer because of it. So that means it's a close relationship. And then you look inside yourself to see what the experiences are. You look inside yourself. There's grief and there's attachment, or there's, or if you're somebody you hate dies, then you look into your mind. You learn about yourself from that, isn't it? So people keep, like, one of the causes of relationships always not, one of the causes of relationships always ending, and that could be one of those, is that you've cheated on people in all kinds of ways. People leave you in this life. They cheat on you, they divorce you, your child leaves you, you get accused of being mean when you weren't. That's very much a learning. That could be one of the karmas you have, people always leaving you, including people dropping dead on you, your best friends, do you understand?
Yeah.
So you always look at yourself.
Yeah.
And observe how you define that action. It's called stealing from me. It's called giving me something. It's called dying on me. It's called, whatever it's called. Then you see your response to it, and you see what you must have created the cause to have some kind of what that experience. You understand me?
Yeah, I'm understanding.
You see, so it's random.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can do it. We should just finish with our meditation. I think finish with a bit of Vajrasattva, starting off with our meditation. Yeah, or anybody else? Come on, though. We have more questions. It's only early.
I have one question, Venerable Rob.
Who's there? Joe.
Yes. First of all, it's fantastic to see you. And I love this discussion. So here's the question. And you may discuss this later, so stop me and we can discuss it later. But in regards to therapy, because I am training to be a therapist, the emphasis is always on the story, right? How do we unpack that in the room with people who want to continually go back to the story and stick with where it came from, how it started, but not really finding any kind of solution there? How do we approach it?
A bit more concrete in an example.
Yeah. So you're talking to somebody and they keep the natural tendency in therapy is to start talking about childhood.
They're talking about what?
Childhood.
Who? Oh, their child. Okay, so that's the story you're talking about. Okay, so your client is there and they're talking about what happened when they were a child. So what's your question?
Yeah, the question is, how do we talk about karma without...
Okay. No, okay. Yeah. You don't.
Okay.
It's too advanced.
Got it.
It's too advanced for most of us. We're brought up with that. No problem. And these that's why I use the example of these young Tibetan nuns. I'm in 2003 when Richard Gere invited His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and he decided to invite a bunch of former prisoners, all of whom had done some kind of meditation in prison. And I was invited because I work with people in prison. There were 20 of them, all these Americans. They also invited 2 young Tibetan nuns. So they'd been tortured and sexually abused in prison in Tibet, right? So it was evident to all of those Americans that they weren't angry. They weren't tortured. They weren't trying, because they have the view of karma in their bones since they're born. The view that like, for example, in our world, the view we're brought up with, which is absolutely implicit in our entire culture, is just natural that our mother made us. So that's a view that completely informs our life from the second we're born. So them, it's karma. So then they're already a few steps ahead. They would not come to you and talk about what their mother did to them. They wouldn't even come to you and talk about what the torture did to them, because they understand karma. It's a completely different approach. We got to go step by step. Got to focus on what your father did. If you live in an abusive relationship with somebody and you feel like totally cowed by them, you got to go through that first, so then they then gradually develop the courage to go, wow, what am I going to do? Then we can start meeting the mind, and maybe never for some people. It's not that easy. You don't understand this huge series of steps you've got to go through.
Yes.
Do you understand me?
100%.
And if you're being a good therapist, then you would help them see their mind at some point. Like, what does that make you feel? That's helping them see their mind, You start to help them see that they can change their mind.
Yes.
So you can bring them to that. Even without karma, that's the one thing I think about in the West. You can do so much already, even without karma, by looking at your mind and seeing the pain. Like, that's why I quote another friend of mine, Sunny, who was in prison, accused of murdering 2 policemen. Her husband got executed. His head burst into flames. She lost her kids, lost her family, and she's in a cell on her own for years. And she said, finally, and she's got no religion. I met her after. No religion, no thought of karma, nothing. But she said, finally, I realized I couldn't change anything, but they couldn't take my mind from me. So she worked on her own mind in this cell 23 hours a day, learned yoga. She said, I started literally changing her mind. She said, but, And that's powerful. That no
Mhm.
sort of karma. She couldn't care about karma. So the first one even is change it. See how your anger causes you pain. See how your rage. That's very hard to get to because we think we are allowed to be angry. But this amazing woman already knew that it caused her pain. She's
Mm.
give myself 5 minutes in the hard work she'd do. I'd give myself 5 minutes to be raging angry, and then I would stop and go back to this work that she'd constructed for herself. That's pretty amazing.
Yes.
And even if we have the view of karma, we can still don't want to know about how anger causes the suffering because we think
Yes.
we're allowed to be angry, you know. Do you understand?
Uh-huh. Mm.
Who else is there? My voice is going. I hope I keep my voice for the rest of the weekend, isn't it? I hope so.
Robina, I have a question.
Okay, go, Kate.
I'm sorry, my phone is messed up, so I hope you can hear me. I work at Rikers, and one of the people that I work with killed somebody. He slit this.
I can't hear you properly. I can't hear you. Your voice is a bit sort of.
Oh, okay, I'll get closer. Can you hear me now?
Oh, closest. Go back. Go back.
Sorry. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
The microphone is very good, so speak more quietly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
One of the people I work with at Rikers killed somebody, and he slit his girlfriend's throat last couple weeks ago. And he has no experience with Buddhism, but he wants to plead guilty, and his attorney doesn't want him to. And we were talking, and I told him I wanted to teach him the Shantideva practice, but he's not ready for that, like the power of regret and everything. And I told him to just do that and to vow not to kill for like 1 minute or something at a time.
So the question here was there's no question or just your point you
Like
make?
what should I have told him? He didn't. I asked him if he wanted to learn the mantra, and he said no.
Guy at Rikers, where you work, who killed somebody. So what's the question in relation to him?
Say what?
What was your question? I missed the question, sweetheart.
So I was teaching him. I wanted to teach him like to take refuge and then to regret and all that. But it's too much for him.
Which part is too much for him? I'm sorry.
Well, he's never even heard any of it. Like I would have to explain everything.
But you mean he's feeling guilty or something?
No. The taking refuge in the Buddha. He's never heard any of it before.
I don't know why you're mentioning refuge now. I don't understand your question, Kate. Please.
Oh, like when you do the mantra, Amanupalaya,
please forgive me, Kate. I have to. Sorry, let me just start again. This guy who's killed somebody. And has he come to you for help or what?
Right. Yes, we were talking. Like,
what kind of help did he want?
He wants to forgiveness, I suppose. Like, and so, but like, I wanted to teach him.
I know, but wait a minute. What is he saying? I don't understand where he's coming from. What is he saying? What does he want? Is he feeling grief? Is he feeling anger? Is he feeling justified? What does he want?
No, he's sad that he did it.
He's what, darling?
Yes, he's sad that he's murdered his partner. He has regret.
How have you helped him, sweetheart, to feel better about himself? That's what you have to do to make him feel better about himself first, to know that he's not totally bad. How have you need to help him do that.
Okay. All right. Good enough.
I think that's the first step. Get him to, forget about causes. He doesn't know why. Forget about that. But just obviously he's not totally an evil person. And right now he's feeling like he is, because that's what we do. Tell him that he's got good qualities. And of course you regret it, but it's, don't define yourself in this way and try and take care of yourself. And so then so he's got to go to court or something, does he?
Yes. And he doesn't, his attorney wants him to plead not guilty or something. And he wants to say, I did it and just go to jail for the rest of his life.
He's going to throw himself on his sword is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Just help him soften his heart and tell him you love him, and that's all you can do. Get him a little bit of self-respect, and maybe, I don't know, that's what I suggest.
Yeah. Because he's definitely not ready for any kind of chanting or any, like, he has no history.
You don't need all that, darling. It's nothing to do with that.
Okay. All right, cool.
All right, darling.
Thank you.
Okay. What else, people? Yeah. You. Microphone.
Hi, great. Hello, thank you for being here and teaching us, Venerable Robina.
Yes.
My question is in relation to monotheism.
To what?
Monotheism, so the Abrahamic traditions. like Christianity.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll see. Yeah, okay.
My question is: are those laws, are the religious laws that come from those traditions wrong, or are they the same as the natural laws that the
No, I
Buddha
understand.
came up
No, I
with,
understand your point.
just justified
No,
differently?
I know. I just think, well, okay, no, that's interesting. So you're saying if you tell your child that a rose grows because somehow you caused it, if that helps their mind, then please tell them. But the reality is the rose is there because the seed was there and you nourished it. So it's up to a person's mind. In a way, you could argue it's a view according to your mind. And honestly, so then say it was very way you said it was very. Is it the same? You said.
Yeah, is it like regardless of if somebody claims that I had a revelation from God versus the reality is that
okay, I agree. No, I think it's the same thing. If you trust your doctor, you trust your doctor so totally, and she says don't smoke,
right,
and you don't ask why, but and when I say why you're not, oh, my doctor said, if that works for you, honey, go for it. Do you understand my point? If it works, you're not being rude, not being insulting. If it works for you. If it prevents you from killing, then whatever reason works for you.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Of course you can.
So then for you, why did you...
Oh, thank you, sweetheart. So kind. What is that one? Oh, how wonderful. Look at this. He's giving me all these cups of tea. Choices. Yes.
That's mint, that's lemon.
Oh, I'll have the lemon. Give me that one. Say what again? Thank you, Yeshi. Go. Say it.
So what was it about Catholicism that didn't...
Oh, no, I have no problem. I loved God. Since a little girl, I was in love with God, but I never thought of God as my creator. I never worried about guilt. I didn't think about hell. I just loved God. This idea of this energy pervading the universe, I thought it was so exciting. And I was in love with God and Our Lady and the saints. I wanted to be holy and have experiences. So I go to Mass every morning, and I knew the Mass in Latin.
Right.
And then I decided when I was 19 it was time for boys, and you couldn't have both. So I said, goodbye, God. Hello, boys. Not a problem for me. I didn't mind about it. And then it was 10 years later that I heard the Buddha's view, and I thought that made sense to me. So it was a very natural evolution. I didn't go against the Catholic one. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
I never worried about that. I never thought of the creator one anyway. I never thought of God as my boss. I never thought like that. So I think I was a natural Buddhist. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah. But if I had a choice in this planet, I think to live your life according to a superior being who... Keep the microphone, please.
Sorry.
I'm talking to him.
That was my bad.
I might have more conversation going on here. My feeling is of the materialist view, and I always sound like comical when I say it this way, that says we don't know the reasons for so many things yet, and your mother made you, and therefore she's responsible for why you're a psychotic, or she's responsible for why you're a saint. But it doesn't sort of seem to make sense. We can't find the brain where there's evidence of all that. So we just say we don't know. We don't know why there's no explanation for why bad things happen to good people. There's no explanation why good things happen to bad people. So we just kind of throw our hands in the air. I think that view, which is a materialist one, is that the Christian one is so much better, or the Muslim one, because you've at least got someone you trust. Someone has a plan. He keeps his plan in his pocket. I don't mind. I trust him. That's a much better way to live your life, my feeling. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
I think you'd be more happy. You accept whatever happens. You'd be more happy. God's got a plan. But the other one, we're living in torture every day, going crazy, trying to know who to blame. Which is, it's a no-brainer for me. The Christian one's far better. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
That's my feeling. I didn't give it up because it's bad. I loved God. I loved Our Lady. I loved the saints. I had no problem. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
That's my view. All my sisters gave me up because they hate God, or they didn't like God, or because the priests were naughty or something. Do you understand? Most people give up being Catholic because they say they're guilty. I never had that problem. That's my answer anyway. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now give me the mic now. Go on, people. Who is on the screen? Nobody there. Go. Somebody else.
I have a question. Sorry, Venerable. Hi, dear Venerable. Hi. I have this question that coming.
I'm gonna find the person first. Who is it?
It's Ladan.
Oh, Ladan. Hello, sweetheart.
Yeah. Hi. But English is not my first language, so I try to be explicit about my question, which is not very It's not very easy. I have like problem, not a problem, but it's coming back. Like free will.
Not done. Stop. Sorry, I have to interrupt. Why is there no screen here for the people? They can't see anybody. You didn't bring it. All I do is find fault with Sheila, you know, poor Sheila. You didn't bring the screen. No. We'll have to show the people every now and again. Come on, turn around. Put it on. Everybody, put the gallery on, please. We haven't got a screen for you people, so here's all the people here. Put the gallery.
Hi. Hello, everybody. Hi.
Gallery. Put the gallery on your computer. Well, you changed it. I didn't change anything. I'll do it. Fine, so don't worry. Here, look. Go, sit down. Hello, people. Look, they're all here.
Hi.
I'll show you them every now and again, okay? Because Sheila forgot.
Nice to see you.
Sheila forgot the notes. I know, Sheila. I always find fault in Sheila, but she's very perky every time I see her. She always says, "Hello, Robina. How are you?" No. Felicity. So go on, Lada. Now I'm listening.
Yes, thank you. My question is about the connection between free will and karma.
Okay, explain free will to me. What does it mean?
Free will, like sometimes you see in your life, you have experienced bad people doing bad things to you, but you decide not to respond.
So why would being a Buddhist stop you from being like that?
No, it doesn't stop me, but I wanted to know if it's my karma or just my free will. I can decide whenever it is the karma coming back to me, I decide not to respond to it.
But what's that got to do with why do you say free will or karma as if they're a choice?
Because sometimes like karma, it's something it's happened to you, like in a war. Sometimes it's killing you, you have to defend yourself and you kill him.
Okay.
But sometimes in the very bad situation that is coming back to you, you decide not.
Concept of free will. What does free will mean, Ladan?
If I understand it well, free will means you have choice even if you have a bad karma.
Choice in what situation?
Choice in sometimes you kill or sometimes you don't kill.
Okay, so what is it in your mind that would determine that you would decide not to kill? What is the cause of the thought in your mind? What is the cause of the thought in your mind, I will not kill? What's the cause of that?
If it's my karma,
no,
that
don't
means
that way. I'm asking you in relation to free will. What would you think? I mean, everybody asked the same question. I could just answer you, but I'm not going to. I'm going to make you think it through. What do you again?
Thank you.
Okay, why do you say free will? What's the meaning of free, Ladan?
Free means that you
say free.
Yeah.
What does it mean free as opposed to not free? What do you mean?
That it's nothing. It's not another force like making you doing something. You are free to do it or not.
Okay. So then, would you ever get angry? Do you ever feel a bit depressed? Do you ever get a bit anxious? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you choose to be anxious? Did you say, I think I'll be anxious today? Did you do that? Did you have the free will to decide not to be angry that moment, not to be depressed, not to have a scattered mind, not to be anxious? Do you feel you had the free will to do that? I don't think so, Ladan.
No.
Because
you are right.
Mind to be depressed from having been depressed before. The habit was in your mind to kill because you've killed before. So everything has to have a cause. Free is meaningless. It's a made-up load of rubbish. Nothing can be free. Everything is dependent arising. So karma tells us that we have choice.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the cause in the mind, then effectively you could argue if a person has got a habit to kill fish so strongly since they are born, if they were to hear that fish don't like being killed because their habit to kill is so strong, they would think the choice to not kill is absurd. It would never occur to them, ever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So nothing can be free. It's bizarre. Everything is dependent arising. And the key thing our choices are dependent upon is the tendency in our mind to have that thought.
To have that thought.
Wouldn't be there otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. Yes. Where's the mic? Maybe you should all say your names before you talk. We can all get to know each other. Go.
I'm Eitan.
Who are you?
Eitan.
Eitan.
A ton of questions. Eitan.
Okay.
My follow-up on that previous discussion was, does that mean that I'm not talking about free will?
No.
Do we not have a choice? Do we not have to make a decision?
Okay. But okay.
Is there
It
a
can't
moment?
be-
Is there a
can't be-
moment?
No,
Is there
it
a moment where we can say, I'm going to do it, I'm not going to do it?
No, you see, it's too general. It's like saying, do I have the choice to pick a rose? Well, there has to be a rose there to be picked for a start. So we can't make it a general statement. In general, we have the ability to make choices.
Go back
But-
to your cake example.
Huh?
There's a piece of cake, right, in front of you. You have a choice to eat it, not eat it.
Yeah, it's dependent upon many things.
Right.
We always have theoretically, there is an opportunity to choose, but whether you can access that opportunity is dependent on your attachment to cake. So a person who's a complete addict, of killing or sex or cake or even a bodhisattva does not have any choice to do anything but be virtuous, because they've practiced virtue. If you're in the habit, of killing every day, virtually you could argue at that moment, because of your tendency, you can't access that choice. It's there. Like an animal has all the potential for Buddhahood, but they can't access that because their seeds are buried under the other ones. So in theory, we have ability to choose, but depending on the circumstances is whether you have that, whether it can function. That's the better way to put it.
Is there not implicit there some sort of abdication of agency? Like, is there some?
But that is agency.
Okay.
It's not abdication of it. What would it be like if it weren't abdication of agency? What would it be like?
I guess what I'm getting at is in the moment, you've obviously got tendencies, you've got habits.
Millions of them.
Right. So you're not just subject to those. Can you not counter them or?
But that's what practice is. That's what purification is.
Right.
But you've got to have a tendency. I mean, we always think that is kind of catch-22. In theory, our mind is able to be changed, is the better way to put it. Our mind is not set in stone. Our mind has the potential to change. Our mind possesses Buddha nature. Our mind is impermanent. But as to any time, whether at that moment in time you can access that ability to choose, that's another discussion. You see my point? But the ability to choose is always there, but whether we can access it at that moment in time. Like if you're an addict at alcohol and you've been completely on the ground, you could argue, of course, in theory, you can choose, but at that moment in time, forget it, because the other conditions are so overwhelming, But that's why if you have an inkling, that's why when you go to AA, you can hear the little voice saying, I can do it. And that little baby seed can then come up and you can start grabbing it. But someone might never be able to grab it, even though they've also still got it, but it's still buried under the weeds. Do you see what I'm saying? But when we hear free will, it's like an absolute. In other words, a person who believes that will look at a homeless, but they can choose anytime they like to get a job. It's not possible. That thought can't even arise in their mind because the karma is so strong. So many other conditions are so strong. It's like if you've only got one leg, you can say as much as you like, I want to have two legs. Karma is so strong, But in general, never give up the confidence in our Buddha nature, because if there is the potential there, we have to try and access it. And then that's why you put it, it's like, you understand, the right timing has to come. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's more nuanced than we hear it, but it doesn't contradict. You have to just think of it that way. Yes, Felicity.
This is Felicity. So I've been trying to think about why does it feel like it's easier to think about doing the 10 virtuous actions or not doing the 10 virtuous actions because it's for others. And I've been trying to think about how
I'm really lost. Start
okay,
again.
a little bit ago, you talked about how like first, this is what I wrote down in my notes. You didn't say this exactly, but I said first we must care about ourselves.
That's exactly right.
And so if we're thinking now about like this conversation on having free will, to be able to have the options in the future, to be able to choose not to react out of anger, to choose like the more compassionate route, than doing things like avoiding the non-virtuous actions now would be planting those seeds. Like if I'm thinking of it, you said that we have to, somewhere I wrote that we have to be horrified by the results of future suffering. And so,
okay, so I don't know where I'm losing.
So like, would that be like being horrified by their future suffering of like, if I keep doing.
Okay. The Buddhist view of karma is that everything we experience now is the fruit of our past actions. So therefore, everything I do now will produce my future. So all I've got to do is think. We understand when it comes to health. I'm eating bad things. I've got overweight. I'm eating the wrong food. I've got acid reflux. I've got this and I got that. So you got to first acknowledge you don't like that suffering. You got to acknowledge the suffering now, and you got to know you don't want that suffering now, even. But also you got to know you don't want it. Absolutely, don't want it in the future. So every time you eat another piece of cake, whatever the food is, it's only going to produce more in the future. So you got to see the suffering now. The really intelligent one is see the suffering now. No, you don't want that in the future. So stop causing it. So the Buddhist first thing is don't kill. Why? Because you don't want future suffering. But we don't, because karma's so hard for us, we can't see that. Cancer, yes. Diabetes, yes. Lung cancer, we get that. That's why we take care of our bodies, But when it comes to our minds, and if we do hear the main reason not to kill is so I don't want to be future suffering, we go, oh, that's just selfish. I should want to not kill only for other people's sake. People often say I love to have compassion for others, but not for myself, because we're not getting this renunciation point. We've got to be revolted by the thought of my own future suffering. That's like compassion for yourself. And that everything I think and do and say is what will produce my future. So you're going to watch your mind like a hawk, and you would never dare to kill or steal or lie. And it's just completely genuine. They talk about the great yogis live in the fear of doing negative actions. They can't stand it because the thought of that suffering is unbearable. And then, of course, they add compassion to it. But we think, oh, that's inferior, Are we communicating here?
Yes.
So we miss that point in the West. We miss it completely. So when we do the purification practice we're going to do now in this week, the very first step, regret. I regret having killed. And we go, and I'll say, why not? Oh, well, because it's not good. It's bad to kill. No. It's like just eating poison. You've just eaten poison. You're scared shitless about the future suffering. That's what regret is. I can't bear the thought of the suffering. I regret deeply I did that action. So whenever I think of my abortion, that's where I first have to think. Forget the little person yet. First, I've got to have compassion for myself. I think I can't stand the thought of continue to kill, continue to get killed, or die young, let's just forget the lower realms. And then that's renunciation. And that will drive me to want to keep living in my vow of not killing. Then I'm ready to have such compassion for the dear person in my womb who, due to their karma, created such suffering for themselves, You understand?
Thank you.
My name is Kevin.
Ted.
Kevin. Yes.
Kevin, good.
So in this situation you were describing with Anton, where the individual in that moment cannot, because of the mental tendencies, the habit of mind, to not take the self-destructive, non-virtuous action, is a starting point then that we cultivate them taking smaller virtuous actions that they can envision and can undertake?
Okay, say a bit more of that, because the first stage of practice really is all the level of don't. The virtuous practices at the very beginning, if we do it really orderly, there's no discussion of doing a good action yet. It's a discussion of the virtues of refraining from harming. That's the very first level of practice. The very first level of practice is do not kill, do not steal, do not lie, do not badmouth, because you can't bear the future suffering. So then, given that, the question, or did you mean something different?
So you used the example of an alcoholic. So they cannot see that they can't stop drinking.
Oh, okay. So
they must drink. So
okay,
can
so
we get them to start doing something healthy or
I
something virtuous to start to accumulate momentum?
So in other words, you see, or like say you see your child who's got an incredible tendency to be angry, screaming and shouting as soon as something goes wrong. They don't see how, they don't even believe anger is wrong. So yes, you try to protect them for a start, but also to get them to create some other virtue. Absolutely, that's a very good idea. Yes, no question.
Thank you.
Or tell them, or like this boy. Yes, exactly. That makes sense. What you're saying, exactly. Yeah. So why don't we do a little meditation then? Do this 4 opponent powers. Was the practice we're going to be doing over the weekend, which encompasses all this business of karma. Let's just talk about it for a second then. Well, let's do it lightly before we go to sleep, but let's talk about it roughly. So given that everything we think and do and say is the process itself that produces who I become. So that's why, sorry, I've got to do some examples again. I think we understand this very strongly and naturally when it comes to everything in our lives. But as soon as it comes to producing a happier person in the future, we don't get it because we don't think we are the person who produces a happy person. So if you want to be a musician, you've got to learn to play music now. And that you program your mind into the mind of a musician. So a musician, we know, is created by me. This, we don't use words like this, but we know it's true. You've got to program your mind into the mind of a musician, and you will take the instructions so precisely because you trust Bach. You've checked your teacher, you've checked Bach, and he gives you the instructions of how to turn yourself into the best musician. We understand that. That's exactly the meaning of karma. But when it comes to morality and ethics and not ethics, we absolutely do not get it. We do not believe for 1 second that I am the main producer of my future happiness and suffering. We just simply can't even get our head around that. In fact, we don't even think our mind plays a role at all. Honestly, in our culture, we don't even think our mind plays a role at all in our happiness and suffering. And I think if we look at our behavior, it's true. We know we're angry. We know we're anxious. We know we're jealous. We know we're depressed. But we absolutely do not think that that's the main cause of our suffering. We think we have no choice. And I'm a victim of these circumstances, That's why it's so tremendously hard for us to take responsibility, because it sounds so heavy somehow. You mean I'm the blame, we'll say. So you've got to play the piano, Robina, because you mean it's my fault. If I don't play the piano, it's my fault. Well, yes. You want to be a musician, you check the musician you like, you take their instructions, you learn their theories, and you work hard every single day, and then you rejoice in your progress every day. That's really what Buddha's saying. It's up to us to produce a non-suffering person. It's up to us to produce a happy person. But he's suggesting at the moment we've got all the wrong theories. We've got wrong music. We play all the wrong notes. So our first job is to stop playing the wrong notes before we even begin to play the right notes. That's sort of like we're up the creek without a paddle, So starting with at least refraining. Or it's like harnessing, it's like discipline, it's like behavior. It's all about behavior. The first level of karma is all about behavior, not about the mind, it's about behavior. And then we have the luxury, having harnessed our behavior, harnessed our body and speech, which means disciplined our body and speech. Like you have to if you're a musician. Look at the discipline for your hands. Look at the amount of work you have to do to be able to get your fingers on that piano. The discipline is unbelievable. It's just physical discipline. Hands, those millions of arpeggios and chords for years to get your hands flexible. That's disciplining your body so you can play piano. What we have to do is discipline our body to not kill, not steal, not jump on the wrong partner. And then we'll start to get the message of don't eat 7 pieces of cake. Because guess what? Because you harm yourself. but it's not moralistic. It's intelligent method for becoming happy, but it's hard because we don't see it as happy. It's like the method to stop suffering of being an alcoholic is if gives up the alcohol. It's so hard. It's tremendously powerful, tremendously difficult. That's what Buddha's trying to say. So we take responsibility, be accountable. We are the boss. We create ourselves. It's tremendously difficult. Even have it as a theory, it's so hard. So okay, why don't we just do this little practice, just short. And then we'll go to bed in retreat mode. Retreat mode means you act like you're here on your own. Be quiet, no talking. If we can do that. So let's just do the little practice, very relaxed. So just get your body comfortable, okay? Just be comfortable. If you're sitting on the floor, go through the position for meditation. It's really auspicious to check the body, to just say the way the yogis say it. So the about 7 or 8 points about the body. This has come from the great yogis and yoginis of the past who found the way the body to be most conducive for the mind to meditate, because the body doesn't meditate, okay? So get your body upright. First of all is having your bottom on a cushion. It depends on how you're flexible. And your legs are best to be in full lotus position, His Holiness the Dalai Lama says. And if you can't do that, even start your session just quickly in that position is very auspicious for the future ability in the more advanced meditations to be in full lotus, because then you can sit for hours like that. The yogis can stay for days, for weeks, because their body's upright and stable, and the subtler energies can flow smoothly. If we can't, then regular cross-legged. And if we can't, in a chair. Then if you're in a chair, have your back upright and your feet firmly on the ground. So for the session, for the meditation, it's ideal not to slump into the back of the chair. So hold your body upright and have you sit, because if you're sitting cross-legged, you've got to be upright, otherwise you topple over. Feet on the ground. Then the hands in the meditation mudra, there's different ways, but this is a typical one we learn. Left underneath, like this, right on top, in your lap. And then they say your body upright, but then your shoulders kind of square and upright, but don't tense your muscles. This is added. I add this. We tense our muscles. If we sit upright, we tense our muscles. So sit upright, but relax your muscles. Flop the muscles, okay? But shoulders kind of square and upright. Bottom, relax, hands. And now your head, several things. Chin slightly tucked in. Instead of having the head thrust back. Chin slightly tucked in, head slightly forward, And then your lips apart slightly. Jaw relaxed, lips apart. And the tip of the tongue, this is coming from the yogis, prevents you from dribbling if you're a long-term meditator. We shouldn't worry too much about that. Have your tongue resting behind the top teeth just near the palate. They say like that. Stops you from swallowing the spit or dribbling. And your eyes, ideally, the great meditators who meditate days on end, when they're meditating in the daytime, it's good to have your eyes open because the light comes in and keeps your mind very sharp. Because the danger with meditating is the mind gets spaced out, But most of us have not very good focus. So then we have the eyes lightly closed, perhaps, or your eyes, but then the eyes beneath your eyelids looking down as if you're looking towards your nose. Okay. So settle into that position now and then forget about it because your body doesn't meditate. Your mind does. So now just do this meditation very briefly, and we'll go into more details tomorrow. It's the 4 R's, okay? So this very first step, which is part of this very first stages of practice, is called regret. And it's not guilt. It's not, oh, I did this and I did that and I'm a bad person, which is our instinct. Not that at all. It's like you have a tendency to get diabetes. So you're going to watch what you eat like a hawk, aren't you? Out of kindness, self-respect. So you suddenly notice, oh my God, I ate the wrong food. You don't go, oh, I'm a bad person and want to kill yourself. You go immediately, oh my God, what a fool. I can't believe I ate that silly piece of food. I regret having done that. You know why, Robina? Because I don't want diabetes. That's the attitude, Knowing that everything you think and do and say will have an impact. So you don't want that. So in this practice, just now, we'll just think of some of the actions we've done with our bodies, for example, in this life. So I was thinking of my abortion, anybody you've harmed, someone you cheated on in your relationship, someone you hit, someone you stole, things you've done with your body to harm others. Just contemplate for a moment actions you've done in your life, could be today, could be yesterday. Because each of those actions sowed a seed in your mind that unless you do something about it, are going to grow in the fruits in the future as those similar actions. So just contemplate a little bit in this life, things you've done with your bodies. Maybe you killed the fish, maybe you killed your wife or something, I don't know. Think about some things you've done with your body to harm others, just a few things. Just remember them, note them. So thinking, I did do that. I did steal. I did cheat. I did lie. And we didn't say the speech yet, but you can think the speech as well. Lying, bad mouthing people, harsh speech, those kinds of things. Those actions, I did do it. I did do it. Just sort of owning it, looking it in the eye. I did do it. And then you think, well, it's due to past habit, due to ignorance. I didn't know I might have known I harmed others, but I didn't know I was harming myself. That's a brand new idea to us. I didn't know that I was leaving seeds in my mind. So I don't want that. I don't want these karmic tendencies to ripen as my suffering. I don't want to be stolen from. I don't want to be killed. I don't want the habit to keep doing these things. It's awful. I don't want that. This is like kindness to ourselves. Genuinely, that's what it is, Not guilt, not beating ourselves up. So you know what? I regret these things, Robina. You say to yourself, I regret having done that. Because you know why? You speak to yourself, because I don't want the future suffering. I don't want that tendency. I don't want to be harmed by others. I don't want to suffer. I know I don't want that. It's for yourself. This step is for yourself. Kindness to yourself. In other words, recognizing that what you do sows seeds in your mind that'll produce actions and suffering like that in the future. Naturally. It's not judgment. It's not punishment. It's a natural law. And then imagine all the likely actions we've done in countless past lives. I mean, if we've had countless past lives, there's nothing we haven't done. So we just think, whatever I've done with my body, whatever I've said, especially as humans with our clever speech, that have harmed others, that have thus left seeds in my mind, I regret from the depths of my heart. I don't want that tendency to grow. I don't want that to happen to me. I do not want future suffering. I am sick of suffering. So we imagine we've killed, we've stolen, we've lied, we've harmed others as animals, no question. Out of my ignorance, I've done those actions. The seeds are left in my mind. No, I want to purify them. I want to put atomic bombs under them. I don't want them to ripen as my suffering. So whom can I turn to? Where's my doctor? Second step, reliance. So here we have the Buddha. He's our doctor in this case. He's our doctor. He's our mentor. He's not our creator. He's not going to forgive us. He would. He's a nice person. That's not his job to forgive us. It's nothing to do with it. He's our doctor. So we're delighted. We imagine above our heads this Buddha called Vajrasattva. We'll describe tomorrow better. Just imagine the energy of the Buddha above your crown, sitting there very happily, enlightened being. We rely upon this doctor whose methods that I can use to heal myself. I do the healing. My mind, as Lama Yeshe says, creates negativity. So I purify it with my mind creating positivity. The Buddha's above our crown, and we delight that we found this doctor whose methods we can use. And the second part of the step is reliance, is now where we have compassion for those we've harmed. First one's like compassion for ourselves. And now those we've harmed, we regret having harmed them because we know what suffering is like. We caused the suffering to these people. The baby I aborted, the people we cheated on, harmed, the fish we killed, whatever, people we stole from. have compassion for them and want to purify for their sake as well. And if we can, have compassion for those who've harmed us. So those young nuns, when the ones I mentioned, the Tibetan nuns, as they said, and of course, we had compassion for our torturers because we know we must have harmed them in the past. That's the real basis of the Bodhisattva's compassion. It's based on understanding karma. So if you can have compassion for those who've harmed you, because they will suffer. They will suffer in the future unbearably. If you can. If not, just leave it. Because we all create ourselves. They say the Bodhisattvas have such compassion for all of us. Forget about not having bodhicitta. Forget about not realizing emptiness. But because we don't realize karma, we don't realize it. We create our own happiness and our own suffering. That's the reason they have such compassion for us. So the third step now, the remedy. So we're visualizing the Buddha. We're going to visualize the Buddha purifying. So, but don't think the Buddha's purifying you. No, you're just imagining it. You're using this visualization of the Buddha to visualize nectar coming into you to purify you. But your mind is doing it. Your mind purifies you. And as Lama Zopa says, the more powerful our confidence in this, the more powerful you purify. It's your mind. So imagine now, we do just simple little visualizations. We imagine nectar, blissful nectar, like radiant liquid nectar coming from Buddha's heart. And it arcs around and enters our crown. It's like a powerful hose of energy, white, delicious nectar. And it fills us completely first. And then imagine us driving out like filthy liquid through the lower parts of our body, all the imprints of all the karmic actions we've ever done since beginningless time with our bodies. It's like yucky liquid, like filthy liquid, driving it all out, forcing this nectar, forcing it all out through the lower orifices, disappearing into space. Not one atom left. Visualize that. Imagine that. It's just you're using your creative imagination, but it's your mind. Your mind, the more you want it, the more powerful it is. As we say the mantra 3 times, so we can learn the mantra, okay? And those course notes that you'll get from Sheila tomorrow, the mantra is there. So just imagine, do that visualization as we say the mantra, those who know it. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutoshayo Mebawa Suposhayo Mebawa Anurakta Mebawa Sarvasiddhi Memprayasa Sawa Karma Sutsam Me Sitam Shriyam Kuru Hung Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramame Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahung Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupadaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutoshayo Mebawa Suposhayo Mebawa Anurakta Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Memprayasa Sawa Karma Sutsam Me Sitam Shriyam Kuru Hung Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramami Mutsa Vajrabaha Mahasamaya Sattva Ahung Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutoshayo Mebawa Suposhayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Memprayasa Sawa Karma Sutsam Me Sitam Shriyam Kuru Hung Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramame Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahung Pe. And we'll talk about Sanskrit tomorrow, the mantras, why they're so powerful. So imagine now full of this blissful nectar. Every atom, all the nonsense of my negative actions of my body, all the karmic imprints in my mind, the tendencies in my mind disappeared like a puff of smoke. Gone. Imagine. So delighted. And now our speech. Now we visualize Buddha above our crown sending powerful hose of nectar arcing around from his heart, entering our crown. and then filling us completely. And this time, what it does is drive up to the surface of our body all the imprints of all the actions we've ever done, especially as humans, with our speech, bad mouthing people, all the rubbish we talk without even knowing we're speaking the truth or not, speculation, all the rubbish that comes out of our mouths, all the conscious lies, all the harsh speech, all the bad mouthing behind backs, all the rabbiting on about nothing, boring people to tears. All this stuff all the speech, clever human speech, dogs and ants. I mean, poor ants probably say a few words, but not much. Dogs shout and yell a bit, but humans are the clever ones. So all the harm we've ever created, all the karmic imprints in our mind from this, the tendencies, the programming in our mind, basically. Imagine completely driven out by this nectar, filling us and rising to the surface. Like Lama says, just like when you have turn on the tap in the sink, all the junk in the glass comes to the surface, doesn't it? Imagining like that, disappearing through the top part of our body into space, like yucky liquid, not an atom left, full of this delicious nectar coming from the Buddha. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupala Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Suto Shayo Mebawa Supo Shayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarvasiddhi Memprayasa Sawa Karma Sutsame Sitam Shriyam Kuru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajramame Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahung Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupala Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Suposhayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarvasiddhi Memprayasa Sawa Karma Sutsame Siddham Shriyam Kuru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajramame Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahung Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupala Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutoshayo Mebawa Suposhayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarvasiddhi Memprayasa Sawa Karma Sutsame Siddham Shriyam Kuru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajramame Musa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahung Pe. Totally full of this nectar. Imagine all the imprints of all the nonsense of our speech gone, disappeared like a puff of smoke. So happy. But now our mind, the source of all of it, the imprints in our mind, the tendencies, kill, steal, lie, harm, bad mouth, as well as all the attachment, the anger that drives all of that. And of course, the root delusion, the ego grasping that believes in the intrinsic me, the voices of which are attachment and anger to get what that me wants, which causes us to do the rubbish things to harm others, all of this nonsense. The mind, the delusions, instantly annihilated. So this time, imagine light beams. I don't know if beams of light can bend, but we pretend, coming from the Buddha, arcing around, entering our crown, and filling us with this blissful, radiant light instantly, as Lama Yeshe says, just like when you turn on a light in the room, instantly the darkness is dispelled, isn't it? So like that, delusion's gone, disappeared, full of bliss, full of this light, amazing, your own true nature. All delusions disappeared, because they can, that's the point, they're not at the core of our being. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupala Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutoshayo Mebawa Suposhayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarvasiddhi Memprayasa Sawa Karma Sutsame Sitam Shriyam Kuru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajramame Musa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahung Pe. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutoshayo Mebawa Suposhayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarvasiddhi Memprayasa Sawa Karma Sutsame Siddham Shriyam Kuru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajramame Musa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahung Pe. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patita Dido Mebawa Sutoshayo Mebawa Suposhayo Mebawa Anurakto Mebawa Sarvasiddhi Memprayasa Sawa Karma Sutsame Siddham Shriyam Kuru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajramame Mutsa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sattva Ahung Pe. Full of light. There's no karma we can't purify. There's nothing in our mind that can't change. Our mind is naturally impermanent. Therefore, and this is what Buddha has found, which is so dramatic, that these neuroses, which we believe are at the core of our being, are not. They're adventitious. That's his amazing finding. That's his outrageous discovery. These are not at the core of our being and can be utterly removed. That's what liberation means, you know. It's very extraordinary. Having confidence in that. So there's more steps to it we can do tomorrow. We'll just do a little bit now. So we finish now. We imagine now the fourth step, the most important one, as Pabonka Rinpoche says, is the decision to not do them again. So we do our best here. If we've taken refuge and we've taken the lay vows, we can reiterate, I will never kill. I will never lie. I will never steal. We make a decision and you program your mind with it. It's not like you just decide and then nothing happens. This is called, abiding by the laws of karma is either programming your mind with delusions or with virtues. So here we're programming our mind with virtues, strongly, intentionally, confidently programming our mind. How marvelous, you know. So we're going to so don't lie to ourselves. There's some habits we've got that are so strong. Like if you're a bit of a junkie for your video games all day, you know, or alcohol, you can't say, I will never do it again. So maybe your vows, you can reiterate, I won't kill, I won't steal, I won't lie. But you're all rubbish habits, you know. You can't say, I'll never do it again. It's silly. So you give yourself a timeline. Okay, but you know, you can say, it was nighttime and you're going to go to bed soon. You can say, for 10 hours, I will not badmouth my husband. And you won't because you'll be asleep. So you'll say, I'll go to bed and I won't be able to do my video games for 5 hours. You say that. And then tomorrow you can go 5.5. And before you know it, you'll say forever. It's one step at a time, incremental. Be reasonable with yourself. Be sensible. So make a few decisions yourself about your old rubbish habits, you know, body and speech habits, and your mind as well. Make a decision for 5 hours, for this weekend, for an hour, for a day, especially the ones that overwhelm you sometimes. You feel like you can't get past. Just have a little chat to yourself, okay? Make some decisions. So now we visualize Buddha so happy, you know. And of course, if we have a spiritual teacher, imagine the Buddha is oneness with the mind of our spiritual teacher. It makes it personal for us. Imagine they're delighted and they dissolve into light. Buddha's white, so he dissolves into white light, blissful light, comes through your crown very happily. And then you imagine, it fills you completely, and you imagine your body, speech, and mind, and the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, and your spiritual teacher's body, speech, and mind become one. As Lamia, she says, union, oneness. Imagine that. Very happily. This is my true nature. But now you imagine kind of expand to fill the universe, you know, no thoughts, just kind of bliss out for a couple of minutes, vast, clear, radiant, light, no thoughts, no thoughts. So we think we're going to happily delight what we've just done. This is, these 2 hours being together. Every single tiny thought that we've had will not go astray. We've done a bit of programming. Be very happy with that. And all the seeds we planted, maybe nourish these seeds with our virtue from this second, so we can continue to grow our amazing potential. As we said in our prayer before. No, I forgot to say the prayer. I forgot our motivation. So imagine that we started the session by saying we're going to listen to these teachings so we can become a Buddha eventually, so we can help others. So think all these seeds we planted will ripen just that way. We'll keep nourishing those seeds with our effort, day by day, step by step. And so now we in this room, I don't know about you people on Zoom, we're going to go into retreat mode because it's nighttime for us, 9:30. We're going to walk out of the room as if we are here on our own. Ignore each other. Don't be polite, okay? Even if you're sitting in the same room as somebody, it's very embarrassing for us in the West because we're very social. But don't be social. Treat it like retreat mode this evening until the morning after breakfast. What is it? Sorry, Sheila, I have to talk. What is it? What do we need for speech? What's the story for speak? Silence until when? Silence until when?
After breakfast.
Okay, so we be silent until after breakfast. We're in retreat mode till after breakfast. So use the opportunity. Retreat mode means going inside, okay? Not being too captivated by the outside, trying to stay inside, hold what we've learned, think about it, taste it, meditate on it. Watch your dreams, have a strong wish to see your dreams. When you wake up in the morning, if you wake up in the morning, delight that you're still alive. You're going to hop out of here for this weekend, you're going to hop out of bed, do some practice. If you do that, or come here to meditate at 7 o'clock, I think. And then we'll have breakfast silently. Okay, so see you all. So we juncture. Semchok Rinpoche, Ma Ke Panam, Ke Gyuchi, Ke Panyampa, Me Pa Yang, Gong Ne, Gong Du, Pa Ba Shog. Let's make compassion grow and grow in the hearts of all. And that's it. Thank you, people on Zoom. If you want to go to retreat mode, do that as well. Why not? Okay. See you all tomorrow, whatever time you'd like to turn up. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to close the lid now. Okay. Bye.